First of all, thank you very much for the invitation to this meeting, to this year, and to all the group which are involved in Mesopotamia for inviting me to present some data on our geophysics. I will make a short introduction to geophysics, why we use and which instruments, and why it was a challenge for us, first of all, to start with prospecting in the Marshy lands, since we have from Europe the experience that on hundreds of archaeological sites it's very, very difficult to get some reasonable results out from Marshy and from waterlogged soils. So when we first came to Uruk in 2001, we were not sure if it will work at all with our method. The next thing was,
are you in a conference? No, it's in a meeting.
Yeah, so there are other methods to be applied in such an environment, but I skipped completely radar prospecting, not only because I'm not so much an expert of it, but generally radar prospecting will not work in such an environment with this clay material. And there are other methods, electromagnetic methods, which are so far not used for archaeology in this area. And, recently we introduced also the earth resistance tomography in it. Also, this was not sure if this resistivity will work, since it is such a salty and wet environment, and we were not sure if we get any contrast on it. But let's see what's just a short overview what kind of instruments could be used for magnetometer prospecting. These are the flux gates on the left side, and we modified our cesium magnetometer in that way that we don't use a gradient, which is necessary for the flux gates. By the gradient, you have a signal from, let's say, 3 nanotesla. On the same time, with the total field measurement, you have a signal of 16 nanotesla. That means you have a slightly deeper look beneath the ground. And this is very useful, especially when we talk about water features, paleo channels, and so on. We will see this in the future, in the next slides. This is the environment we almost have in these areas. Here is, for example of Ur. This is in Fara and also Uruk. Short after rain, you have such traces on the ground, and it's really difficult even to walk online. So this is why the best way is to carry instruments, and the best instruments are at least these cesium magnetometers. And finally, our first tests, they show up that we are really in paradise for magnetic prospecting, yeah? So that was a very big surprise. Meanwhile, we made, I think, 5 campaigns in Uruk. We made a campaign in Ur and Fara and also Charax. So these are these places we worked already in southern Iraq. With these, our preferred instrumentation here is these magnetometers, these cesium magnetometers. So here's the area we worked. Oh, sorry, this is shifted here. So Ur, Fara, and Charax, and Uruk, of course. What these sites have in common, they are in the marshlands, and you know this expression from Jennifer Purnell, these turtlebacks. This is, for example, here Fara, and you see already from the satellite images that it's surrounded by water channels, and so on. The core city and the lower city, but you will see further details on Fara in the presentation that will be given by Adelheid Otto and Bertolt Einbach on Friday. so I will not go further in detail on it. However, is the most, I think, the most interesting construction we found here on this place. This is a digital elevation model from Berthold Einbach and Adelheid Otto. Was made in 2070-80 and showing the area. And Ur, it's also such a kind of turtle back and surrounded by some water canals, some maybe irrigation valleys. Harbor was partly measured from us, and here's the data, but this will also be subject of the presentation of Adelheid and Berthold on Friday, and they will go in detail in these findings we made here. But let's go to Uruk-Warka. As I said, the first meeting there was 2001, and it was rather a challenge. We were together with Helmut Brückner, who did the coring at the same time, the funding stone here of Uruk-Warka. And that is what was the plan before we started our work in 2001. You see, excavation took place mainly in the city center, but there was already the idea and the hypothesis of Margarethe van Es that there could be some canals which organize the city. And as it was already presented by Helmut Brückner, it was our effort to find out that it's really canals, and the finding of Helmut Brückner was really confirmed by our magnetometer measurements. So the water is obviously coming in from this side, from the north, and here must be also a huge harbor. And we are very keen to do some measurements there. The next season, at the next possible occasion, we could go there. It goes up down here on the western part and ends up here in this water gate outside. And on the other side, there is obviously some further channels and another one which probably goes through the city here. And the whole city is composed of several so-called turtle backs. So the city center, comparatively to the size of Ur, but then further backs where we find clearly some housing and city building structures, but in between a lot of areas which are simply somehow in the marshes. And what we covered so far with the magnetometer is this part. It looks quite a little bit poor compared to the rest of the city, but nevertheless, we can deduce a lot of constructions, especially when I was invited to look on the special interpretation of these water constructions. We see here very clearly the canal as a negative magnetic anomaly. This is very much supports the finding from Helmut Brückner that it is cemented carbonate. It's like a, how to say, autobahn highway through the city, but it was really a canal. We see some harbor here, and then it goes through to the city here, a garden, and here a gate to the south. But looking on the findings in more detail, you see more clearly here the main channel and then further constructions. It was also in a presentation when somebody asked me, and where are the bridges? But finally, now we are aware of bridges. There are many. So these are these constructions. I don't know if you see my cursor here, furthermore here, and many others in the south. Let's go further into further detail. So this is the buildings north of the Sinkashid Palace. Very nicely here, a Babylonian house, ground map of a house which was obviously burned down, made of bricks, burnt bricks. And that's why it shows up very clearly as a positive anomaly. Then we have here western, I don't know, why is it, the western city area, early dynastic period. Here, obviously the harbor and intersection of canals and so on. City center in the southwest, and gardens and fields. And further features here dams, ports, piers, procurement of transshipment, some installations. But let's go further into further detail. Here we see the canal itself. It's really very sharp, demonstrated by the magnetic signal. We see here these little harbors. It looks like a private boat dock for this owner of this little palace here. And then we see further features which is a little bit speculative, but I feel that we see also traces of sunken boats here in this area. Further little jetties, if it's the right word for such a little place where you can fix your boat. Here, very clearly a brick which is made here from burnt brick, not to be affected by the water and to be stable enough. The width of such a canal we measured by ERT measurements. And that was very exciting for us also, that we, with this ERT instrument, which is applied now by one of my students, Mandana Parsi, she makes a thesis about it. But here, very clearly, we can see this part of the canal as it looks like the pavement of a highway, yeah. And in the first moment, we don't understand, because it should be more moisture, more water, but it is the other way. It's just cemented feature by carbonate. The width of the canal is at least 60 meters, roughly 60 meters wide, and the depth of this concrete is at least 2 meters. We can also use other processing of this ERT data. In the first processing, this, I think it's the Venner configuration. We measure exactly the shape of the canal, and when we apply another processing on the data, we see something about the sedimentation of it inside the canal. So you see here traces of the sedimentations, while we here focus on the shape. So this could be very interesting also for further work on geoarchaeology, especially maybe we can reactivate Helmut Brückner or Max Engels to follow us again in this area, but maybe not only Uruk, but also Fara and Ur to continue their research there. Let's have a look into the details of the harbor. So, by the way, this area was measured with the flux gate magnetometer, and that's very obvious for archaeologists. They prefer in general such an image, because with this flux gate you focus in the first half meter of the topsoil, while with the Cesium Mag you look a little bit deeper beneath the ground. And so here the harbor, of course, it's visible, but less deep. And of course, there are some advantages, disadvantages. You can transfer these data from the Cesium Mag into this one, but not the other way around. So that's why we definitely prefer the interpretation doing on such a measurements. These are different dates measured. This was measured 2016, and 2016. This was measured 2018 and 2019, and parts of this were measured in 2001. Interesting side effect was that we found that the Earth's magnetic field, the total Earth's magnetic field, was increasing after the last 20 years by at least 200 nanotesla. It has no effect on archaeology, but for us geophysicists, it could be interesting. So here the canal, you see further little harbors, jetties, and then we have a construction here, which I'm sure that it's some waterway lockage. You have one part of the canal going down here, another one here, and there are some docks or some lock systems, which hydro constructions. We found similar features here in Uruk, in Ur, and but this will be discussed later in the paper of Adelheid and Berthold. What you see here also is some kilns. So it looks like as if it was just an industrial area near the harbor. Here also kilns for pottery or for bricks production. And here some station to upload, to download the goods which are coming by boats, and this going here in another part of the harbor, and preventing also when there was high water to stop here some water and avoid flooding in the deeper parts of the in the more southern part of the city. The area looks absolutely flat. From this feature, you see absolutely nothing here in the ground. Here, by the way, this is the trace of the canal, and the rest looks absolutely flat here, and no such a trace of such a construction beneath the ground is visible above the ground. This, by the way, is the feature from Ur harbor, but that will go in further detail, will be shown by Berthold Einwag and Adelheid Otto later. Let's go further to the south. We see here field systems, gardens. You see even here the traces of the field, and this is also accessible obviously by boat. Yeah, so it's at least the width of this part of the canal of a irrigation canal is at least 4 or 5 meters. So this would be also possible to access these fields by boats and to maybe to transport goods from here, store the goods and bring them outside. By the way, this is the city wall, wall of Uruk. Further details on the city wall, just in the section, this we thought it's made of burnt mud brick, the other not, but then it turned out in the excavation that these bricks are made from pottery, particles of pottery, and that makes them so strong magnetic that we misinterpreted them as burnt bricks. So this is also new in these findings. Let's go to the southern part of the city. I think we come already to the end. We have here another garden area, the canal, which come here from the other side and goes together with the main canal. We can call it somehow the Canale Grande. Then we have some further constructions here to regulate the water, which goes outside the city in this direction. Here we have a city center from early dynastic Babylonian period. Here's the water gate and furthermore harbors here in the south. Here you see these garden structures. Also here, probably we will find some traces of sunken boats. So far, this is a little bit delicate because for the moment it will be difficult for an excavation, for such an excavation project to do it. Here again, bridges and gate, which is made of baked bricks to avoid erosion by the water. And then it goes out here from the city. It looks as if this canal crosses this, that there is not a gate here. This is a relic of the topography of the site. And some further details, if we process the data, we see also the construction of this gate here. And also here, it's about nearly 20 meters. And I'm pretty much sure that there was also a bridge crossing this part. So further details on the different processing. This is a total field. This is somehow with a high pass filter to get further details on the constructions itself. And at the end, I go to the south. We have here another harbor next to this huge building here, which is also composed of different orientations if you look closer here, but very nicely here a section of another harbor, and here probably also some traces of ships, and this is also some different processing to go in further detail. Final interpretation is not made. We are still looking forward to continue our measurements, and here further details on this harbor, and maybe here the traces. And yeah, this cylinder seal was shown already by Helmut Brückner, and the traces of geophysics in the Arabian sense from space was also shown now. And now I say thank you for your attention and listening, and I'm curious on questions if there are. Thank you so much.